Well then, it seems like that my recent video on M1 Medieval Global triggered some people. In fact, there are some video response to me about that. Well, let's respond to these videos. Hello number ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking. So, recently I made a video about M1 Medieval where I shared my thoughts on why I didn't feel at the time, and I still don't feel, to be honest, that this sport is actually 100% historically accurate. And the reason for that is that there are certain techniques that they show during these ring fights that are anomalistic, to say the least. All of this created a certain level of turmoil, if you will, among those who practice this sport, which led to me deciding to talk about this sport once again. So in today's video I'm going to show some of the actual footage from these response videos that were addressed to me specifically. Although before doing that, I'd like to say a few words about the original video about M1 that I made a while ago, a few days ago. And about that video I'd like to say that first of all, I still stand strong in most of the points that I brought up. Not all of them, but most of the points that I brought up. However, I must say that on that video, the choice of words or the way I expressed myself, on the overall sort of attitude that I showed, a sort of mocking attitude, was indeed unfortunate, and I do admit that. Okay, I'm not the kind of guy who just wishes to be always right, wishes to be always correct, or never admits when he does something wrong. As a matter of fact, the policy on my channel, which I made myself for debunking videos, or the whole debunking series, or whenever I talk about other people, is that I should never insult those people. And I did on that video say a few words that I will mention in a little bit, which I shouldn't have used. So for that, I apologize publicly. So again, I apologize to all of you who practice M1 if you felt offended by my choice of words. However, I do not take back most of my points, and in this video I will defend those points that I still think to be valid, regardless of my unfortunate choice of words and approach. Okay, so today we will examine two video clips that were made to respond to me, and one was made by a gentleman by the name of Jim Giant. He's got a YouTube channel. Of course, both videos will be linked in the description, and this man, although he basically didn't agree with most of the things I said on my video, and he's a HEMA practitioner, he has got a huge bias towards HEMA, but he's defending on his video M1. And the first thing I'd like to say about this gentleman is that I appreciate how politely he disagreed with me, and I commend him for his equanimity. The second person who made a video response to me, unfortunately I can't say the same. As a matter of fact, his name, I believe, is Adam. And Adam, although you did bring some interesting points on your video, unfortunately you also decided to shower me with insults. Now, I have no harsh feelings towards you, so I don't take offense, regardless of the fact that you basically insulted me every 45 seconds on your video, personally. So yours were attack ad personam. And to me, name calling is always detrimental to any profitous conversation. But since I'm a very honest individual, I also wish to admit that the fact that he used insults and he attacked me that way is probably because I myself in the original video have called M1 practitioners, although I was talking about those on the ring rather than people who practice in their gyms. So it wasn't an attack to all people, but when I was mentioning those two fighters on the ring, I did call them buffoons. So it is I who spoke first, and I understand that probably he got triggered and he was pissed off because of the fact that I used that term. Although you've got to give me that, it's a good term. Buffoon is a fun term to use, but yeah, I understand. Name calling again, name calling. So if I have to be 100% honest, the fact he insulted me was in retaliation to the fact that I myself in the first place used this term. So the way I see it is, I don't think that Adam is a bad man, and I don't have anything against him. I just think he got pissed off. I don't take offense, although you did take the concept of insulting to the next level on your video, I must say. But just as a little piece of advice from an older brother, insulting someone not only doesn't strengthen your points, but it actually makes them look weaker. Okay, I'll give priority to Jim because of how polite he was, and then we will move to Adam's points. Let's start with a clip.
Hey YouTube, so this is a response to Metatron's video.
Hello, Jim.
The first thing I disagree with Metatron on, he thinks that M1 Global using the word medieval falsely implies that what they're doing is historically accurate. I don't assume something is historically accurate simply because it has medieval in the title. It's on the person watching. It's their fault if they falsely assume that it's historically accurate.
I understand the point you're drawing, Jim, but as you will appreciate by the clip from Adam, the other person who responded to me, they do state that they are historically accurate. So after all, although generally speaking you would be right, in this case I think that the word medieval means just that. They state that they are historically accurate, which I don't think they are, with all due respect to them.
Metatron talks about how ridiculous the spinning attacks are in it, and from the vast majority of what we do in HEMA, I think that spinning attacks are bullshit, but in the context of M1, they work. It's as simple as that. In fact, the clips which Metatron showed actually did show those spinning attacks work. They didn't open them up such that the other person was able to take advantage of that.
Spinning in the context of M1 works. No, it doesn't, Jim. I mean, maybe you didn't notice, but let's watch again together the clips I showed on that video and look for yourself if it actually worked.
Okay, those spinning back fists earlier. It's getting very interesting now. But you still need some extreme...
As you could witness, most of the times the red guy, or red fighter, let's call him fighter, I'm fine with the word fighter, as long as you don't call them knight. The red guy who starts spinning gets hit in the head with a sword.
Okay, those spinning back...
The black guy punished him for it, almost every time. This is not effective. If this was an unarmored real duel, he would have been dead. That's a fatal wound, most likely. According to M1 rules, the black guy just scored points. So, because they do score points if they hit the head, right? So again, not an effective move. But let's discuss spinning a little bit more. Let's approach this scientifically. So what is a spin move? Well, when we talk about spin moves, we're talking about rotation. So when we talk about rotation, we're talking about the rotation of a body about his vertical axis. In martial arts, there are numerous ways, of course, to perform a turn, so to speak. You've got quarter turns, half turns, full turns, and airborne spins. But in order to support side choices martially, we need to take into consideration a whole variety of factors. First of all, is the spin airborne? Is it supported by one leg? Is it supported by both legs? What weapons have you got in your hands? In what situation are you performing the move? Any three-dimensional object always rotates around an imaginary line called the rotation axis, which passes through the body's center of mass. Now, since you mentioned speed, let's keep in mind that speed depends on the angular frequency and its time rate, and angular acceleration. The relation between the two is given by the moment of inertia. So, provided the orientation of the move and the context in which said fighter decided to perform such move, we could then decide and assess whether the move was a good choice or a bad tactical choice. All of this to say that I'm not attacking spinning moves in 100% of scenarios. Of course, there will be some scenarios in which it will be advantageous to perform a spinning move. In this situation, the way I've seen these M1 practitioners, and again, they are champions, so I'm not showing rookies, I'm showing acclaimed champions who are called knights. The situations in which the guy in red armor performs the moves are bad, and we could see that because he was hit in the head several times. This is what I'm attacking, not the whole concept or the general concept of spin moves.
Metatron then talks about how a historical knight could take on like 4 of these guys at once. Now, I do disagree with that. These guys aren't just a bunch of jokers in there. These guys are genuinely very, very skilled fighters. And, with them being very skilled grapplers, I think that a knight would have a very, very hard time against 2 of them. I would put money on the M1 fighters if it was 2 of them versus 1 knight. When he was dealing with one of them, another one would have found an opening to close in and tackle them to the floor, and chances are their grappling is going to be on par, if not better, than a historical knight's.
Okay, the idea that they are, yes, I'm sure they are skilled at what they are doing, but it's completely different to how a Mortal Kombat duel in the Middle Ages would have been. That's the whole point I'm trying to draw. Even if you give real swords, sharp swords, to M1 practitioners, they will still be used to their rule set. It's like in Kyokushin Karate, my favorite martial art, but that doesn't mean that I can't be critical about it. I have practiced Kyokushin Karate in Japan for a few years. One rule they have, although it's a fantastic martial art, but one rule they have is that you can't punch someone in the face. Now you will understand, you will appreciate that, of course that's for safety reasons, but when you have a Kyokushin Karate fighter who has practiced for 10 years never to punch the face of an opponent, and all of a sudden you make him face, for example, a Muay Thai practitioner, and you say to both, now you can hit each other's face, he doesn't automatically become good at doing that if he hasn't practiced it. Actually, the rules and the set of rules that he had during his practice will create some blind spots, areas that he's not used to receive attacks from. They are used to be kicked in the face from close distance, not to be punched in the face. So you will imagine how that will completely change the automatic reaction and responses of said fighters in a new situation of combat. I think the same thing could be applied to M1 practitioners. I'm sure they are good at doing what they're doing, but if you remove those rules and you put them into a Mortal Kombat with a real experienced knight from the Middle Ages, completely hypothetical situation, they might be in trouble. And I think you would lose your money, because, to be honest, you're telling me, Jim, with all due respect, I think you're a good man, but you're telling me that you think that two M1 practitioners, so fighters who practice a sport with rules and safety and regulation, would be better than at fighting and would prevail over a historical knight of the Middle Ages. So we are talking about a freaking killing machine, someone who is battle hardened, someone who has experienced real warfare in a time where, never mind, practicing for a couple of hours or 3 hours, going back home and lying on your couch eating crisps and enjoying a nice football match on TV and then going to bed on your comfortable bedroom. A medieval knight would have been a person who was used to life to death situations, who was living in harsh times. Someone who went to battle several times and actually has real experience of seeing his friends die in battle, who has experience in killing people. We're talking about someone who has experienced seeing the skull, the cranium of his opponents crushed in pieces by the hoofs of his horse during a charge. A man who is used to the psychological impact of seeing dead bodies all over the place, of seeing his weapons and his armor covered in blood. A person who is hardened through this a freaking killing machine. This is what a knight was. Someone with this experience, when you put them into a real combat situation, a Mortal Kombat situation against someone who has only got sport experience in safety situations in modern times, he has no psychological impact at all. He's used to it. Whereas someone who's practiced a sport and has never killed a person and never was in a situation where he was fighting for his life, imagine the enormous psychological impact of such experience for those two lads. So no, I don't agree. I don't think the M1 sport practitioner, even HEMA practitioner for that, even Kenjutsu practitioner, modern people will never reach the same level of psychological preparation and probably physical preparation of people who had to live or die because of their skill. Alright, let's move to Adam now.
Alright, hi everybody. I'm Adam Vormark.
Pleased to meet you.
And I'm the captain of the Order of Wrath, Free Range, ACL, IMCF, HMB, Battle Nations, whatever. We do medieval combat. This is a video I'm making to call out Metatron and Scholagrim. Metatron, your video popped up on my buddy's page, and I actually watched it. It was your section on M1 Global Medieval Combat, and you're an annoying twat.
Here begins the whole situation with name calling and insults. I think you should be more creative, though. How about you call me next time a you flying jester? How about that? Okay, I'm joking.
So I made this list of shit that you said, and I'm going to go through and read that real quick, and then I'm going to go through and explain why you are incorrect. HEMA guys, mad respect for you guys. So you said It isn't medieval. You're completely and 100% wrong. We document all of our armor, all of our weapons has to be found somewhere in history, whether it's a museum replica, pictures, drawings, tapestries, whatever, that are from the medieval era, that literally have pictures of half the shit we fucking wear. Okay? And the weapons we use that are clearly so fake. Yeah.
Okay, so you say that I'm wrong when I say that your sport is not historically accurate and it's not medieval because you document your gear. Basically, you document the kit you use, the armor you use, the weapons you use. Apart from the fact that, to be honest, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, or I don't understand how smashing a metal sword against the coffee table, which I suppose you have in front of you, proves that the weapon you've got in your hand, you're wielding now, is historically accurate. I'm not saying it's not, just as much as I'm just saying I don't know. And that's the same, that's basically what I said on my original video. I said I don't know, I said I don't want to know, yeah, but what I meant to say is that I don't know, and I think I did say that. I don't know whether your armor is good or not. I don't know whether the weapons you're using are historically accurate or not. In fact, when I say it's not historically accurate, I don't mean by the way you dress. I mean by the way you fight. I don't think that certain techniques would be appropriate. And that's, again, just my opinion. I could be wrong. Okay? And you could be right. But I am still entitled to my own opinion just as much as you are. I respect your intelligence, and I hope you will start respecting mine. Historically accurate medieval knights might wield the same shield and the same sword, but they wouldn't be doing these sort of spinning moves. Of that, I'm absolutely adamant. Since you mentioned a lot of documents, please find me one treaty, medieval treaty, which talks about you approaching your opponent and start performing a pirouette. If you find one, I will make a public video where I will say, hey, I was wrong, they did this in the Middle Ages. I still think it's suicidal, but they did.
Modern fencing is closer to the way knights fought. I'm assuming you're referring to Olympic fencing, okay, like foil epee type stuff. Well, considering that was made after all the knights were pretty much being phased out, well, you're wrong.
Okay, yes, I did mean Olympic fencing, and it was a joke.
Our armor is generally some kind of high carbon steel, 4130, 1065, whatever, heat treated. My buddy Alan Bijman of Bijman Armory uses 1045.
Good for you. It's good that your armor is heat treated.
Sword and shield is a less effective weapon that you could see to bring to a fight against an armored opponent. Well, considering, like, thousands of the pictures in the manuscript miniatures documents and in tapestries and in all that other shit shows guys with a sword and shield, I think you might be wrong. I think history might be telling you something there.
Sword and shield is less effective against an armored opponent. And when you talk about, you often talk about tapestry. What tapestry are you talking about? Is it Bayeux? Because if it's Bayeux tapestry, we're in the 11th century. So predominantly male armored knights, but you guys fight in plate. So, it doesn't really matter what they were using at the time because there was no plate. They weren't facing any plate armored opponent. So I don't see how those two things are relevant.
Also, I've used a shield to punch a guy clean off his feet. And doesn't HEMA teach you a little bit about grappling, where if you get the guy on his back, he's a turtle, he can't get up, he can't move, all that shit. Any weapon with an edge is capable of slashing, okay, cutting through stuff. So, you hit a guy in a gap in his armor, you hit a guy in a gap in his armor, you're going to cut him, you're going to do damage. Whether it's...
Another point, I think you are completely wrong here. No, you can't cut armor. Even if you manage to hit and to slash the armpit, so the parts where there is no plate, there will be an arming doublet, there might be a gambeson, and there will be mail. You cannot cut riveted mail on top of a gambeson. It's impossible. You can try to pierce it. And by the way, you never thrust in M1. I have never seen anyone perform a thrust or a stabbing motion. Again, another thing I have an issue with as far as historical accuracy is concerned.
They would have worn better quality armor. Says who? Says who? And at what period in time? Because they were using mild steel up until I want to say it was like 14th century or something, before they actually started getting real deep into the heat treatment of steel. It might have even been 15th century. But the point is, not all knights would have had anything better than mild steel, you damn retard. And how long ago does knighthood stretch? I mean, what, 11th century or back even farther, if I remember correctly? Those motherfuckers were wearing chainmail. You. That's not plate armor. That is mild steel rings, either butted together or riveted together. So, you're wrong, again.
On mail, I have to say no. All the historical examples in museums I have seen are, in Europe at least, are riveted mail from the Middle Ages all the way back to the Romans and the lorica hamata, which most of the times would be half riveted, half solid, and some other times completely riveted. I am not aware of any historical example in a museum of butted mail in Europe, and chain mail is not a correct word. Okay, even if we talk about 12th century knights, quality of armor is not, as you probably know anyways, it's not just a matter of the material is made over whether it's been heat treated or not. It also has to do with the skill of the smith. It has to do with how thick certain areas are compared to other areas, okay, so differential tapering, and whether it's tailored to the wearer, or whether it's some cheap off-the-shelf armor that was available in the Middle Ages for men at arms, for example, or soldiers who didn't have much money. A knight would have afforded best quality armor of the time because they were the elite fighters.
You would have never seen sword and shield on the battlefield. Okay? Knights is a general term for us. We're dudes that dress up and wear armor. It's a sport. What do you want us to call each other? Okay, I usually say fighters. I'll give you that. But there are guys that are knighted that do the sport, whether it's by a specific government or not. The American guys were knighted in the beginning, I believe, and so technically, you're still wrong.
Okay, there are guys who were actually knighted. Good for them. My uncle was knighted, and my grandfather was knighted by the king of Italy himself. Yet my uncle has never touched a sword in his entire life and doesn't even know what it feels like to wear armor. So modern titles or knight titles have nothing to do with medieval knights. So it doesn't really matter that they have that title, in my humble opinion.
They constantly try to cut each other's plates. Well, I'm pretty sure you said that they had blunt weapons, which we do. So how are they going to cut the plates?
Well, you still need some extreme...
They would have half-sworded against each other. Well, I mean, sure. Except that's like one fraction of the amount of techniques that they could have used.
It is indeed. I give you that. It's true that half-swording, murder stroke, and all these grappling techniques, they are just a fraction of all the techniques that a medieval fighter could use. But also, you have to take into consideration that they are indeed the most effective that you could use against an armored opponent, particularly if he's in full plate. Smashing with a murder stroke to stun him and then, perform a grappling motion is the most effective thing you can do. If you've got two fighters and one fights like this, they are equal skill, and one fights like this and the other one tries to slash in full armor, the second one is doomed. So it's true that there are many techniques you can use, but you will only use the ones that actually work.
This is a sport, after all. All the tournament fighting we do, all the rules, everything comes from, if I want to say 15th century tournament fighting, tournament rules.
15th century, if it's 15th century combat, then all knights would have had heat-treated armor. Again, absolutely adamant. Why? Because knights were freaking wealthy. They had a lot of money and they spent their money on their gear. And I have to say, yes, it's true that medium carbon steel is what normally is best for heat treatment for armor, but we do have historical examples and I can provide you with that in the links in the description, but you do need to give me a little bit of time to find it again. But I have come across a full armor, and I think it was 15th century or 16th century, not quite sure, but it was one of the two, and it was heat treated, although it was high carbon steel, which actually didn't give a great result, because if you heat treat steel which has a too high content of carbon, then it will get brittle and it won't be optimal for armor. But they still did it, because most of the times we have to remember that in the Middle Ages they didn't have the technology we have today to understand the exact amount of percentage of carbon, so sometimes they made mistakes. It was a proximate heat treatment, and this is why they tried heat treating lots of different things, from mild steel to high carbon steel, and the best results were with medium carbon steel as far as armor is concerned. Okay, so this was what I wanted to share. If you want to see the full videos, please check them out. They are in the links below. Although I do discourage you noble ones to go there and attack, particularly Adam. As I said, I have nothing against him. I've no harsh feelings. Of course, if he makes another video to insult me, then I would have a problem with him, but I don't think he will, considering that I was polite to him and respectful on this video. I thank you both, Jim and Adam, for watching my videos, and I thank you all noble ones, as always, for watching my content and supporting me. And thank you anyways whenever you defend me, because I do appreciate it. But in this case, I don't think there is a need to do so. So to finish it up, to all of you who practice M1, do what you do, enjoy what you're doing, have fun. I'm just a guy who has an opinion. Whether or not I like all you do, or whether I like some of the things you do and I don't like others, I don't think it matters that much. We all choose our own sword path. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye.